Here's the thing. Guess what? There's somebody, the next person who's going to present, I've heard he's quite good. It's me. Right. Here's the thing. So as a storytelling coach, so I help founders, I help companies. Companies invite me into their offices, really to help them really find their stories, nurture their stories, and really share those stories with impact as well. So working with TEDx speakers, working with founders, entrepreneurs, incubators, accelerators, and CEOs who come to me and they have a conference coming up and they need help really forming that story and sharing it in the right way. That's essentially what I do. But right now, for the next 15 minutes or so it's very sharp, it's very quick, it's very short, hopefully sweet as well. I'm going to be sharing with you a few things in terms of when you're pitching, really to try to get even more engagement and more connection with the people that are listening to you. So I'm not talking necessarily about the traction slide. I'm not talking about your team slide. I'm not talking about the way you deliver, your body language, your voice. All those things naturally are important and essential. However, things that I'm going to share with you now is maybe things perhaps you haven't quite heard before, or you just need more of a rethink, maybe a shake-up perhaps, of the way you approach, the way you share your messages when you're pitching, to get somebody to listen to you, give you the credibility that you deserve, and help them really be on board, or at least start to agree with your messages, right? So, let's start. First of all, number one, who cares? Now, what do I mean by that? I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. So far too often, somebody standing on a stage, let's say, or somebody in a boardroom sharing their ideas when they're pitching. They share their idea, they share the problem, right? They share the traction, they share the vision. All those things, as I say, really important. But so often there's one thing that's really missing. And it's the connection that person has, the founder, the idea, the person who came up with that idea. What's the connection he has with that problem, right? The experience perhaps that he's had. He's actually, or she's faced that problem, felt that challenge, decided, bang, I decided to do something about it. It made me think about the problem, and I wanted to solve it in some way. Because here's the thing, if somebody is in a pitch, sharing their messages, sharing that pitch, that anybody else can do, somebody else can do who can deliver really well, who looks confident, sounds confident, sharing strong messages, then you're losing the plot completely. Because here's the thing, remember, a TEDx speech, for example, what's that all about? It's about your message, and it's about changing the ideas of the people that are listening. That's fine. Let's say a presentation that you've all done, I'm sure at some stage in your career, maybe you're doing them all the time right now. Yeah? What's the idea? Sharing a message, get people to maybe think differently, act differently, or do something differently, right? Okay. When you're pitching, naturally, it's about the idea, whether that idea is going to be scalable, whether there's enough traction, whether it can actually really fit into the vision of the person listening. But also, just as important as the idea is you. You, whether you are the person they want to work with, whether they believe you in terms of why you're doing what you're doing. Somebody who's faced a challenge, who's faced the challenge they're trying to solve, is far more appealing, far more attractive in terms of getting that connection to start with the agreement than somebody who hasn't. So really, whenever you're sharing, whenever you're pitching, and we're kind of doing that naturally all the time in some way, right? Always think to yourself, well, what's my connection with this problem? What's my connection with all of this? Why am I doing this? Why do I want to solve this? An investor, not necessarily an investor, but somebody who's maybe going to agree with you and hopefully start that conversation forward, that's what they really want to hear. They want to hear that you have this connection, and they'll believe you, because they're not going to believe someone that is just going to stick around maybe for 6 months, who's been hired by a startup to present well. It's not about that, because they'll leave. The person who faces that problem, trying to change that problem, and find a solution, that's the person they want to hear from. Let's move on quickly. Problem equals ready to listen. Now, what on earth is that? Here's the thing again. Remember this. Again, far too often, we hear pitches. We hear they go straight in, a little bit about the solution, what they're doing, and then straight in terms of the problem, right? Now, remember this. The more we understand a problem, the more we really get underneath the problem and understand it and feel that challenge, the more you understand it, when you hear the solution, you're more ready to hear that solution, right? Here's an example. Right? I can tell you right now a problem. Okay, I'm a startup. This is what we do, and this is the problem. I say a few sentences about the problem, and then I say, well, here's the solution. This is what I've come up with to solve it. That is not going to get you connected as well as if I was to say, I really understand that problem. I show you I understand that problem. I get you to feel what it feels like. I get you to imagine what it feels like to face that problem, right? I show you my credibility in terms of my experience within the industry, showing you that I know what I'm talking about, showing you that I faced that problem, going back to the first issue. Who cares, right? So when we've agreed on all of that, when I've taken you through that, and it often takes a little bit more time, think about your problem in a way of sharing those issues, sharing you understand those issues, getting your audience, getting the people listening to you, getting your investors even to understand that you know what you're talking about and you understand why the problem is there. Once all that is done, we're in a better place, ready to hear that solution. Okay? So we understand the problem really, really well. We're in a better place to hear the solution. If we don't really understand that problem really well, those challenges, it doesn't mean anything to us. We're in a less place in our minds to absorb that solution. Okay, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Right, let's move on. Clear vision for the investor. Again, as you can hear, these are many of these things are things that I'm facing, working with clients, working with founders, listening to pitches, working with startups, working with brands, really, when they're sharing their messages. So a clear vision for the investor. An investor, somebody who's willing to put money into you and your idea, it really has to be clear, at the end of the day, what are they going to get? What's the deal? How long is it going to take before they get their money back twice, 3 times, 10 times, whatever it is, right? Really make it clear about what's in it for them. Because so often we hear great ideas, great pitches, scaling well, traction's good. But that doesn't necessarily mean for an investor it's something naturally for them, right? Unless you really illustrate what it looks like. What's it going to look like in the next 2 years? If they come on board, if you have a conversation straight after, they come on board within the next 6 months. The next 6 months to a year, 2 years, what's it going to look like working with you? What's it going to feel like? They need to know that. They need to feel like they can see a clear vision and an illustration, a picture of what it's going to look like working with you. Okay? Simple, short, and sweet. Very simple. Simple, short, and sweet. Remember, the more information I give you, the more I talk to you, the more somebody talks to you, the more your brain has to work. Right? Isn't that simple, right? So if I was to keep talking, let's say for an hour, right? You just looked at your watch, don't worry, it won't be an hour, it'll be a lot less than that, a couple of minutes in fact. Thank you, he's like happy about that, okay. So the more someone talks to you, your brain has to work harder. We need always to anybody listening to us, whatever it is, a webinar, a pitch, a presentation, a meeting, right? We need to be short, sharp, sweet, concise, and so that we don't make people's brains work hard, right? You're doing that all the time. You have a 10-minute call on Zoom, right? You have another 10-minute call on Zoom. You're focused. You're listening. Right? After a bit of time, your brain feels frazzled. It's the same thing when you're sharing messages. And certainly if somebody's looking and focused on you, wondering whether they're going to actually agree with you, take a conversation forward, and invest money into you, it's a big decision. It's not an easy decision, right? So that takes focus. So everything you share has to be really simple, concise, short and sweet. All right? What does that mean? Making things shorter sentences, simple sentences. Big words, take them out. You don't need them. Certainly not at the beginning when you're trying to get people to listen to you and agree with you. Because all of this is all about getting people to go, yeah, I understand that. I agree with that. Or I can imagine what that feels like. Right? Know who you want. Right, again, so often. So many startups, so many founders that I've worked with as well, and you've probably seen it as well yourselves, they're looking for investment, right? They're looking for money, looking for funding, looking for financial support, right? But they're quite happy to take anybody's money. They're quite happy to take that from anyone. Here, this is about knowing exactly the type of investor, the type of person, company, organization that you want to work with. The type of organization or company that's actually going to be of benefit to you and naturally them. So you really have to really make it clear what that is. So you say something like, we're looking for a type of company that sees the same vision of us, that can understand and feel the same ideas as us as well. If you feel like this is you're curious, you'd like to know more, let's have a coffee, let's have a chat, and let's see where we can take that in the future. All right? So it's almost like you're not saying, I'm happy, I'm opening up to anybody who's willing to agree with me and give me money. No. You want a specific type of investor. You want a specific type of person or organization that can really see themselves working with you together, right? Not everyone. So that then you don't look so needy. You don't look like, I'm okay. I'm happy with anything. You have to be specific and clear about who you want as an investor. All right? Right, we move on. Clap it. I like this guy. I haven't finished. But this guy here, every day I see him clapping. So you should follow me around. Every time I do that, you should clap. Right. To the end. At the end, you can clap a big one. Right. The last one. Let's talk. Now, there's one thing. Anytime you pitch, and in this case, I'm more talking about a larger audience, right? I'm talking about an audience like this, online, okay? Maybe you have jury members, maybe not. But always remember, that the one thing you can get that's so easy, it doesn't cost a thing, and it's the lowest hanging fruit you can get, especially like in a place like this here, in this kind of environment. What's that? A conversation, a chat, a conversation. So you need to tell them that you want a conversation. I'm not talking about putting up your email on the slide on the top there, because nobody's going to take a picture, nobody's going to contact you afterwards. I'm not talking about, okay, if you're interested, come over to the booth or meet me tonight at a gala dinner. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about right now. So if you're interested, you're curious, you'd like to know more, or you know someone in your network that would like to know more, I'd love to have a chat with you. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a free coffee. Let's sit down and let's see where we can collaborate. How many times startups, founders done that, and they have had so many people just come up to them, exchange a business card maybe, and say, we'll contact each other in a few days. Great. Or they've said, listen, later on, let's have a chat and a coffee. Great. Or right now, have you got time for a coffee now? Yes, let's have a chat. You're looking for chats. You're looking for conversations, because these are the conversations that start to another conversation that can take things forward. All right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't naturally share your ask, share exactly what you're looking for. That's good, but tangibly, straight after your pitch, right? You ask them for a conversation. You're more likely to get that than anything else. Once you've got that, then you start working on those meetings, more about how you can connect more with them. But that doesn't happen if you don't have a conversation. All right? Boom, there we are. Now is the time. Now is the time. We don't have any questions. However, you're curious. You'd like to know more. You'd like to know more about maybe what I do, or perhaps I can help you in some way. I'm here for the rest of the morning. We can have a chat. We can have not right now, but we can have a chat. We can have a coffee, and perhaps I can help you. Again, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Connect with me over there. You never know when we might actually need each other, and that's simply all from me. And now is the time for this man to start clapping, and you should do the same. There you go. I love this man.